Bessler. Childers.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
McGrath.
Here. Are we present? Yeah.
Yeah, which was
we're
the-
present.
Oh, I thought
We're
we were
present.
present.
Do the roll call. It's okay.
I was thinking already in the chiller.
Any public comments? Okay. Action item, can I have a motion on item 3, approval of bids and awarding of contracts for the absorption chiller?
I so move. Second.
Second, thank you. Mary?
On the 16th, 5 bids were opened. The lowest responsible bidder, which has been scope reviewed by Archon, was Quality Control Systems. We are recommending the award of base bid 2 plus the alternate in the total amount of $830,714. Base bid 2 was the replacement of the chiller. The alternate was for the full replacement of the cooling tower. You'll notice that we are not recommending the award of base bid 1, which was the rebuilding of the cooling tower. For about $75,000 more, the entire cooling tower can be replaced. It is at its end of its useful life, which is why we are recommending the total replacement. On the back of your memo is the bid tabulation sheets, which show the numbers for those bidders.
And I know we discussed this at the Buildings and Grounds meeting, but what is the life expectation then?
So, well, this will be a brand new unit. The life expectancy on these is between 22 to 25 years.
23 to 25.
23. Thank you.
So what was the existing cooler?
23 years.
It was 23, it was
So
right
you
at
bought it
23.
23 years ago?
Mhm.
This is definitely need to replace instead of
Correct.
repair.
Instead of rebuild.
That's fiscally responsible.
And when do we expect the work to be completed?
It will go into September, maybe even into a little bit in October. This is long lead item parts, which is why you'll notice in the total bid project, we have an allowance for temporary chiller and generator rental, because our plan is to rent the part of the bid is to make all the connections so that we can bring in a temporary chiller, hook up to those connections, and cool the building. Right now, we're running on a backup chiller, which is, as I call, taking the edge off of the building during summer school. I wouldn't say it's completely cooling down the building. It's not.
I'm understanding that at
It's
least
not.
one room
It's taking the edge off, but
at least one room is cool. I have a kid who wears a sweater every day because of that, but
well, and that's kind of it. It's like, you know, we're pumping it as hard as we can.
Yeah.
And the damper, if this room goes, you get that much cooling, and the damper at this end, you get that little cooling.
okay.
Related to, how about like Main East and Main West possibly? Are there lifelines?
We have, if you recall from the 10-year facility plan, we have millions upon millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in mechanical equipment that has exceeded its useful life. So part of the reason why this wasn't on the radar screen was it was just at the end of its useful life, so we thought we could get another 10 plus years out of it. But I am more surprised now when we do a changeover and everything works than when we do a changeover and something breaks.
Do we have any concerns that there will be gaps or days or two, or that we won't have any cooling? Or is this generator, there should be seamless?
If the backup chiller goes before the rental unit is in place,
Yes.
we don't have it.
Okay.
So, is there a fear? Yeah, because that backup chiller was never meant to cool the building.
No.
And it is just it is just, I'm like, oh God. Yeah, please don't break.
How long's the temporary?
The temporary chiller is a monthly amount, so as soon as they make the connections, we can get it in there. I would think within 2 weeks.
It's a day or two to
Yeah.
install it and disconnect it, but it might be a week to get it here.
And how soon will we be looking to get it?
Well, now that if the board takes action on the approval, then we will start tomorrow setting up, getting contracts in place for the replacement, getting contracts in place for the rental. And, right now, we've got all the homework done, but we can't take action until the board says, this is the plan.
Generally speaking, all these equipments, their lifelines, expectation, the updates, these continued changes rapidly in 21st century.
Correct, this is a very different chiller, and Dave can go over the exact details. It's no longer an absorption chiller, it's a
screw chiller, it's electric powered, it's going to have a savings, an average of $28,000 to $30,000 per year in utility costs. The absorption chiller right now uses both hot water from our boilers and electricity to run. It was installed as part of the cogeneration plant when that was installed back in '92. One of the issues that we have is because we are using natural gas in the summer, we're powering our boilers to get cooling. Now with the new type of chiller, we won't have to run our boilers, so we'll get longer life, less use out of our boilers, plus we're not using natural gas in the summer.
So, oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, environmental friendly related to.
Sure, it's electricity, so of course it's got less of a carbon footprint, I suppose, because we're not burning natural gas and exhausting, we're just taking clean electricity. How that electricity is produced is, you know, it's a mix of coal. Here in Illinois, we're fairly dependent on coal, but it's also nuclear and natural gas powered. But that's coming off of the grid, so we really don't have control there. But as far as our own, we're no longer burning natural gas to produce our cooling, so our on-site carbon footprint is gonna be cleaner.
What's the weak link in a screw chiller?
Maintenance. Maintenance is the weak link in any piece of equipment. So as long as we stay on top of our maintenance, which I have full faith that we will, we have a good team over there at Maine South. We should see, like Mary was saying, the life expectancy by the experts, ASHRAE, the American Society of Heating and Air Conditioning Engineers, they say 23 years on a chiller. I would expect that we should see 35 to 40 years.
And we do all our own maintenance, we don't contract for maintenance.
We contract out certain parts of it, certain aspects of it, some of the heavier stuff. I don't have enough staff to take them out of the building for 2 weeks while they conduct, pull the unit apart and punch the tubes. So we would hire that out, but the regular checking the operation on a daily basis, making sure that our oil levels are correct and that we don't have too much refrigerant mixed in with that oil and maybe we've got a leak somewhere. That's a part of the ongoing daily maintenance that we would do with our
Is that
staff.
part of the contract, or is that a separate?
No, that's
No,
something
that's
we
not-
would do in-house.
And what's our best guesstimate as to our outside maintenance costs?
Oh,
I'm not holding this to you. What's your
yeah,
best
$3,000 to $5,000 a year for annual clean and check.
Is that what we paid for the old children?
You know, we don't have a long historical log of what was happening with that because I'm new and the building manager is new and.
Yeah,
We should track our.
one of the things that we're implementing next year is a work order system, so that, and we've been working on it for a couple of years, because you have to have every piece of mechanical equipment identified in inventory before you can then attach work orders to it and track when did we do preventive, when did we oil it, when did we call in a contractor and do this to it. So our goal is within the next
Correct.
year or two to have all computerized records, so that when you pull up a piece of equipment, you can start to see exactly when you did in-house work on it, when you did outside work on it, and everything, and it provides you an entire log history of that. Right now, we're on paper.
Well, I have a couple fans in my basement, if we need them, but, is there any other discussion? Oh,
So is it-
I'm sorry, I just have one more question.
It's okay, I'm
About-
used to running along.
I just wanted to ask one more question about, so as far as the funds go for it, so now it taps into the reserve, is that what it is?
Correct, so what'll actually happen is, in this current fiscal year, 2015, we had some payments that we made for Maine West. So we're gonna use more of our reserves this year. Next year then, I bumped down the Maine West budget for the payments I've already made and took $1 million and put it at Maine South to cover this project. So next year's budget, you don't see the change, it's gonna be in this year's actual expenditures because of the timing of projects. We don't really we leave a little bit of a cushion in the spring, because summer of 2016, we start before the fiscal year ends, but the board doesn't approve those projects until November. So I can't really budget for something that I don't know if the board's gonna approve or not. So we always have a slight timing in the spring and at the end of the fiscal year between the projects.
So we do have a money funding available, taken from the reserve.
And this is one of those things, even if we didn't have, we'd have to figure out a way to get stuff like this done. I mean,
What would you, well, I don't really want to ask a hypothetical, but what would happen?
we would have a choice to run a non-air conditioning. If you didn't have funds,
Yeah, if you
your
didn't have
choices
funds.
would be
Oh.
borrow money or run an air conditioned building, which in this day and age, it's,
But when Main South opened, there was not air conditioning. I
when
remember.
many schools opened, there was not air conditioning. I would say over the course of the last 20 years, it is now becoming issues when schools are not air conditioned. So I would use, in the last 15 years, more and more schools have installed air conditioning because our summers are getting
Yeah.
longer and hotter.
Well, and we also run, there are very few days in a calendar year, if you look at any one of our 3 schools, when somebody's not there doing something.
Yep.
I mean, over winter break, over spring break,
Yeah.
over summer, there are very few days, any time of the year, when one of our schools just has.
There is not a day in the year where
Yeah.
someone's not.
Well, there's not a day when someone's not there, but I mean, even student programming.
Correct. Student
When you look at
programming,
student programming, it
there are
is
about
almost.
5 days a year, maybe.
And isn't it
That's
more
students on the
efficient to
building.
keep it going and higher or lower it rather than turn it off? Keep it
What we do is we have a cycle program, so we'll turn it into night mode. So it's always running, but it's running at a lower level during the night.
And this is a good time, because Terry's new on this, the other board members have heard this discussion before. One of the things that we are going to have to, I think about in District 207, we have been very frugal in how we've expended funds. We have protected our fund balances, but this year with the $10 million project that West demonstrates, we're spending cash for big projects that nobody's doing. Part of what we're going to have to think about in this district is a borrowing extension. We, unfortunately, and it's just a random thing that happened when tax caps came in, districts were limited to the amount of debt they had. District 207 actually went out and borrowed $1 million just so we have $1 million worth of debt. Probably for a district our size with $1.5 million, 1.5 million square feet of buildings, we would probably need somewhere between 6 and 8 million annually. We could do whatever we needed to do our buildings. But this project itself illustrates when things happen, you gotta fix them. There's a shelf life to how much you can go to your fund balance and spend your reserves down to do these projects. So we've been talking about that for a while, Terry, and I think we're gonna have to maybe get a little more serious about that discussion in the next year or two.
And then this funding, are we pay all this $830K at once within a year?
So what happens is we issue an AIA contract through the architect, and then there is a payment application. We only pay for work that has already been completed, so it's going to be a percentage of the project. So each month we'll pay a percentage of the project that's completed. So, for instance, a big part of this project is the actual physical mechanical unit. Once that unit is delivered on site, we will pay like 85% of the value of that. We take 15% and reserve it so that once it gets installed. So it's a pay-as-you-go for only the portion of the work completed. And we always hold back our retainage value until punch list, closeout, warranty documents, manuals, training, and everything is completed. We are still holding money on contractors from last summer.
And just for last question, the timing-wise, how do we know exactly this chiller did not broken down or anything? It did, still working. How do we know when this is the kind of right time to
So what happened is,
Can we wait a year or so, or?
Well, no.
Generally?
We can't wait on this one, so what happens is, every year we do the changeover between heating and cooling. So they went to this piece of equipment, fired it up for the cooling season, and we're not seeing the pressure that they wanted to see. So the first thing we did was a test to say, okay, is it tubes? So how many tubes are clogged? Tried to punch the tubes, they couldn't get through the tubes, because it's like, consider like a little pipe. So the water runs through a little pipe. If that pipe gets clogged, and there's hundreds of these little pipes. So if that little pipe gets clogged, it goes through the other ones. Well, 40% of our pipes were clogged. So it doesn't get the same water pressure in to generate through, which runs the machine and runs the generator. So when we noticed that, okay, all of these are tubed, we can't punch through them, we put chemicals in it to try and get it, so it's like these little tubes have to be replaced. Then it was like, okay, what about the generator, the thing that fires it up? So we had to wait and do a test on that, and the generator came back fine, so it was like, okay, do we just replace all of the tubes and the cooling tower and everything? And then it was like, you know what, at some point when you're replacing 65% of a 23-year-old piece of equipment that has a 23-year useful life, it no longer makes sense to rebuild all those things and Band-Aid each little component unit. So that's why we put in a recommendation for a full replacement, because the cost of all of the repairs that we were gonna have to do almost equaled the cost of the new unit.
But the short answer is it doesn't work anymore, so it had to be replaced. Now, in general, on our systems, and I think Mary can attest this and so can Dave, if you look at many of our boilers that had 30-year lifespans, we've gotten 50 years out of them. That's more in line with what our typical performance has been due to really good maintenance and preventative maintenance over time. Yes.
Well, Maine West, I mean, so our next huge piece of mechanical equipment that's on our radar screen, and we keep going, is the Maine West boilers. Those are incredibly expensive, and they're not, I mean, every year we walk through and it's like, okay, can we get another year? Because it's a huge dollar value, and we're managing our cash, you know.
But it illustrates a couple of things. One, we've generally tried to keep running it until it breaks, but the risk of that is, at some point, it's gonna break.
It's gonna break.
And so you can, philosophically, you can say, well, if this has a 30-year lifespan and we're at 50 years, let's go ahead and plan to replace it. But the positive piece about that is, you know you gotta spend the money anyway. It doesn't get cheaper generally, and you can replace it before it breaks. This illustrates what happens when things break, and it's the summertime and you gotta fix it now. So this is related to my previous thing. Part of what we've struggled with in this district is we have been incredibly frugal around the 2 mid-century and early 20th century buildings that we've got, and I think we just need to have enough money committed to making sure we take care of the buildings that the community's committed to. We are not going to be building new schools in District 207. I think we're going to live with the 3 that we have for as long as we can and take really good care of them, but you know, treating everything as a case study. We've got a case study in front of us of what happens when you wait until things break. Because sometimes they break in the summer when you really need them.
What's the anticipated cost of that boiler at Maine West? You're talking about $1 million as well?
Probably.
Easily, yeah.
Easily $1 million.
Yeah, there's actually 4 boilers there, and they're all the same age and the same vintage, and they all are experiencing the exact same necessary repairs on a regular basis. We are very fortunate that we've got a boiler man over at Maine West who's extremely dedicated to those units. I mean, he lives in that boiler.
Don't let him retire.
Exactly, exactly.
But it comes down often to things like that. I mean, the people who take care of these really make a big
So you're talking
difference.
about $4 million if they all.
No, they're probably $200,000 to $250,000 each.
A piece.
However, what we would do is we would look at doing a different type of system rather than 4 large boilers. Maybe we install 12 small boilers that can stage on, so on the coldest day all 12 boilers are running, but on a day where it's 60 degrees, maybe only 1 boiler is running. And those would
That's
be,
something we can present at Buildings and Grounds, like in a purposeful way, looking forward and preparing for it rather than waiting for it to go down.
yes ma'am, I am working with an outside vendor to do exactly that at each of our buildings, to look at the equipment and the potential for energy savings by replacing them with newer, more modern equipment. And it's everything from lighting fixtures to outside lights to, in some instances, some of our fans and our exhaust fans. It's a pretty comprehensive plan. And we finished 1 school already, and we're working on the other 2.
So we'll look
And
forward
I think that the other piece maybe we'll do is we'll take the 10-year facility plan that lays it out and we'll color code it for you, like The following piece of mechanical equipment is 15 or 10 or more years past its useful life. So
Let's
it's
go
in the
red.
red zone.
Those are grand.
Yeah.
I love that, that would be great, okay. Are there any more questions about the chiller replacement? All right, hearing none, take the roll, Jenny?
Lee,
Aye.
Bessler, Childers, Collins, McGrath.
Aye. Can I have a motion on item 4, personnel approval, items A through F?
I also move. I'll second.
Any questions? All right, take the roll, please.
Bessler, Collins,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Childers, McGrath.
Aye. Motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.